You took the youth pastor job 3 years ago, and now you're also, besides doing youth, you're also doing small groups, you're overseeing volunteers, you're managing the church's app, and somehow you found yourself in charge of the coffee station, and your business cards still say youth pastor, but your calendar looks like a Swiss Army knife. The role just keeps expanding and expanding, but your salary and your sanity just haven't kept up, and you're wondering if you're still called to this or if you're just really good at saying yes. Meanwhile, you're not sure if you're a youth pastor, an operations manager, or a professional plate spinner. That's what we're talking about today here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Hi there, my name's Todd Rhoades. I'm one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com, and you're listening to the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Here's what a lot of us don't really realize about ministry roles. Ministry roles are like living documents, not contracts. Small churches especially. You get hired for one thing and you end up doing 7 things. Church growth changes everything about your job. Things other than church growth changes everything about your job, even if your title stays the same. The youth pastor in a 200-person church is completely different than the youth pastor in an 800-member church. So if you were hired in at 200 and all of a sudden your church over the next few years is 800, that's a totally different job description, a totally different type of youth pastor in a lot of cases. But nobody prepared you for that. Nobody prepared you for any kind of a transition. So what happens when we don't navigate this intentionally? It feels weird, right? You start feeling like you're feeling at everything because you're trying to excel at everything. Your core calling it just feels like it's being buried under a pile of urgent responsibilities that aren't your core calling. You become to start feeling resentful because honestly, this just isn't what you thought it would be. And it's not honestly what you signed up for. And you maybe start thinking about maybe you misheard God's call in your life. Or that job that you loved becomes a job that's slowly just killing your passion. You're busy, but you're not fulfilled. And you're needed on the staff team, but you just don't feel like you're thriving. So if you're feeling this way, man, I feel you. I've been there. Your church is not trying to destroy you in most cases. They're just growing. And a lot of times that growth creates a lot of complexity, and that complexity makes its way into your ugly world of the job description and what you have to do. So a lot of times you just have to pivot in ministry. Most people are not doing today what they were hired to do even 6 months ago, but especially 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The evolution has taken place. And we need to start off by just naming the evolution instead of pretending that it's not there. Maybe you need to have a conversation with your pastor. Maybe it's your supervisor. Maybe you're the senior pastor. You need to have a conversation with your board and just say, hey, be honest. My role has shifted significantly, and I just wondered if we could talk about it. You need to identify your core zone of calling, the thing that really energizes you, and then ask, is there anything that I can release so I can lean more into my strengths? If we're going to go in this direction, how do we get there responsibly, and what role can I play? Don't just accumulate responsibilities. If you're not careful, and if you don't speak up at times, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a pile on. Hey, can you do this? And then 2 weeks later, can you do this? And they're never temporary tasks. A lot of times they just turn into be permanent tasks. So don't accumulate responsibilities. You need to architect your role, because here's what nobody tells you about ministry pivots, especially successful ministry pivots. Here it is. Your calling isn't just your job description. It's your wiring. It's your wiring for kingdom impact. And sometimes God expands that influence by expanding your responsibilities. So the question isn't really, is this what I was hired for? But the real question, is this where I can serve best? Your core gifting doesn't change, but your platform and the individual tasks that you do, your individual oversight might change. Think about it. Paul was an apostle. He was called to be an apostle. but he was also a tent maker and a church planter and a letter writer. He had the same calling, but he had different expressions. So here's your bottom line for today. Your role, if you're frustrated, your role will evolve. There's no question. And if you had the expectation that your role would not evolve and that it would always be what it was on day one of your hire, that's probably not a good, realistic expectation. Your role will evolve. The question is whether or not you'll be able to evolve with it intentionally or just survive the shift. So this might help you if you were just to get out a piece of paper and write down 3 things. Number 1, what energizes you most in your current role? What energizes you? Number 2, what drains you the most in your current ministry role? And number 3, what conversation do you need to have with your pastor, with your supervisor, about that gap between what energizes you and what drains you? Between what your actual job description is and what your actual job responsibilities are. Because here's the truth, your calling is bigger than your job description. But that doesn't mean that your job description should be meaningless. You need to elevate the evolution with intention. And when you do that, you might just discover that God's expanding your influence in ways that you never expected. All right, that's it for today. Hope that's been helpful to you. You can reach out to me anytime, podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. I'd love to hear from you. If there's any way that I or anybody on our team at Chemistry Staffing can serve your church, we would definitely love to hear from you and hear your story and see how we might be able to assist you. All right, that's it for today's podcast. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again right here tomorrow, every weekday, for the Healthy Church Stuff.